Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Today we're going to see and hear about some of the most beautiful and historically significant gardens in North America. It's a chance to get ideas on what to plant in our own gardens or just be inspired by the gorgeous scenes we're about to see. So for a sampling of gardens in the Philadelphia area, I'm joined by our frequent contributor Leonard Perry from the UVM Plant and Soil Science Department. Good to see you again.
It's great to be back, Judy.
Now, Philadelphia area gardens that you're going to tell us about were part of a tour that you did last year.
They were. Each year we do tours, as I mentioned before on this show, and last year we went to the Philadelphia area, we being myself and Charlie Nardozzi. We host a tour each year, and I'll mention at the end when we've got planning for this year. But we went to the Philadelphia area. That's like the epicenter, if you will, of gardening in this country. It's where a lot of it started. There's just so many gardens, so we saw a few of them. Not time to show them all today, but I did bring pictures of a couple really well-known ones, influential ones, and a couple that are really less known that a lot of people may not know about, but still have a big impact on our gardening.
So where are we going to start?
We're going to start at Longwood Gardens. Now that's a Pierre DuPont Gardens. It's about 100 years old when he bought it and set it up. It is world famous. People come from all over the world to this gardens, and it's just so many different gardens there. This is our group arriving at Longwood. We had about 3 dozen people last July when we were there, Charlie in the background there. But when you go into Longwood and go under, the first thing you see down to the right is this walk. These are coleus, the red, one of the chartreuse-leaved ones with the red begonias, and then those are the elephant ears, alocasias down there. And there's a long flower board that Pierre started many years ago, Pierre DuPont, and they've kept it up. It's color themed. Here you see the beginning, the white, that's an angel's trumpet, that big plant in a pot. They have lots of greenhouses, we'll see, and they hold a lot of these over winter, but these are annuals for the most part. They do have some perennials in the background. But you can get a feel. Here's just the purples, the petunias and some of the other different plants, and you go down, you see some reddish in the distance there, and here's an example of that. You have a coleus with some red that's echoed by that red celosia, and some other different ones, but masses of plants, very well labeled. You can really get some ideas. Even if you can't plant masses of border like that, you can see what goes well together at a garden like this. Here's a fountain, and that's the summer snapdragon it's called. It's not really, it's Angelonia, that purple spiky plants around it, but just very pretty. And then that's only halfway down this walk, and then you keep going and you see oranges, and then going into yellows, that's an Alamanda topiary, but the yellow cannas, the orange marigolds, the yellow celosia, but again, done in masses. So you can just, again, get an idea of not only how to combine, but some different plants. I've never seen this one before. I'm going to see if I can't maybe find it this year. This would be a very tender plant. It's called Caribbean copper plant. It's related to the poinsettia with those bright red leaves, about 2 feet high. It's something very different. I'd never seen this one. I grew up in the South, but I'd never seen black-leaved cotton before. Again, a couple of feet high, and just a real nice contrast with that million bells or calibrachoa in the background. But again, some real different plants you see at Longwood. Another fountain looking down, this is a sunken garden. In the foreground you see some New Guinea impatiens, some of the copper sedges, some more of those angelonias, the purple spikes, and some tall, we'll see some later as well, the tall vervae or verbena. But looking through, seeing a view there in the distance as well. But again, a lot of good plant combinations. They have an ideal garden there at Longwood Gardens, west of Philadelphia. Here you see some red petunias, some sweet potatoes, blackie, the dark ones. That one coming out, kind of drooping over, that's a papyrus grass. And that actually we've had it here in Burlington. It grows quite well, stands up well. And then that caladium in the background. And then here's another example of petunias, zinnias, that dark-leaved can in the background, so on either side some dark-leaved dahlias. So again, you can see just all one color theme beds, how you can really do something with that, or contrasting colors for a real dramatic effect. I love this little area. Again, just a few plants. That's kind of a goldish colored lantana, one of those coleus with that kind of brighter yellow. That's that tall vervain we mentioned earlier, or verbena, and then in the back some yellow cannas. Now Longwood's done a lot of breeding. We'll see another plant in a minute, but cannas is one of the groups they've bred a lot of. That's one of theirs. Of course, vegetable gardens are just spectacular. Here you see nice bean trellises they've put together. And then looking down the walk here, just again, something you could do with some straw, some little bamboo pieces. On the left, there's some peppers and leeks. On the right, you can have basil and some red leaf lettuce. So just a real pretty ornamental effect. Now, Longwood does a lot of education. They have student programs. And each summer, the 2-year students that are there for 2 years design some beds. This is a student design bed. That's all the fountain grass, pennisetum, and then those arches there with some pots. You could do something similar, maybe even with perennial grasses in your own, with a little walk through it and some trellises or arbors over it. So again, a simple idea that you can maybe adapt. Now, one of the things, we've seen a couple of fountains at Longwood, but Pierre DuPont liked water. There's lots of water. Here's a lower pond with a Grecian little gazebo, which is very nice. And if you look across this pond in a bit, you see one of the 3 big tree houses they built a few years ago at Longwood. This is a Norwegian style. I think a lot of people might like to have that for their home even.
Yeah, right.
Not just a tree house for the kids, but just a beautiful pond there. And then one of the fountain areas that's really special, they do a lot of cultural events and theater. That's actually a stage. And after the performances in the day or evening, they have a water fountain show like this. And it's interesting, at night, you see in the foreground all those little jets coming up. If you light those from the front, that's the curtain. You can't see behind it, which is really pretty special. So that's the theater fountains. Down near the pond we just saw is the Italian water garden, patterned after one in Italy, but just very, very simple, but a very Italian effect there. These are their main fountains they're famous for. These were just renovated and opened last year. We got to see them going there. They have 1,700 different fountains and jets. Some of those on the other side you see go 200 feet high. They spent $90 million just on this renovation. This is probably the most spectacular and special fountains in the world. They're computer run. They have music on these huge speakers like a concert during the day and at night they're lit with all these lights, again, all computer run. They get maybe 30,000 people all around at one of these shows, especially when they have the fireworks along with that at night. So well worth a visit just to see those. Now, and here's another example along the front of this renovated, just some beautiful effects with these different fountains there. More water. This is around the conservatories. These are the water lily gardens. You can see the water lilies.
Are those real water lilies?
Those
are
water lilies,
caps?
And those looks like floating caps. Those are called South American water platters, and they actually have these big veins underneath that hold air. And they actually have pictures of little children sitting on those. That's how supportive they are.
Wow.
And they're very spiny too, so that's how they protect themselves. It's a very interesting plant, but yeah, those are very tropical. So they have to bring some of these in a greenhouse this winter, but you can see all the water plants, the bog and marginal type plants in the background. And of course the conservatories, they have some main ones like this. This again has some water, but they can drain that. This was actually a theater where Pierre DuPont would put on shows at the end. They put seats down there. They still do that sometimes. They'll move those tree ferns out, and those are oleanders there. And you see up top these round hanging baskets. So Longwood is famous for those. And in the main conservatories, you see more here. In the fall, they do these all in mums, and they're on electric pulleys that can come down so they can water and maintain them and then pull them back up. But look at that grass, and they're just so, especially this time of year, to see something like that. And they change this seasonally, this display, but they've got a lot of smaller greenhouses as well. Here's an example of one, kind of a desert succulent type garden with all silvery plants. Sometimes they get some well-known designers in, but you can see some succulent plants, some cactus in the background. That's one example. The orchids are one of my favorite. I've never seen such displays on a wall. They will grow them, of course, in the back greenhouses when they're in bloom, bring them out here, design them, but you can just spend some time looking at all the different types of orchids, ones you never see anywhere else. I mentioned before they do some breeding. One of the plants they bred over the years is a clivia. This is a bulbous plant that some people grow in their homes. I'm still trying to figure out how to get mine to bloom, but it's not a yellow one, it's the traditional orange one. But this is one they bred, Longwood debutante. It's fun to see these because yellow clivias are kind of special, especially that one is only about $300 to $500 if you can get one.
For one plant?
For one plant.
Wow.
So just it's fun to see some of these things like, wow, I can never afford that, but that's kind of, I've got a picture of it. So that's about as close as I'm getting. So yeah.
So now how are you going to top that garden?
Well, that's very hard. Longwood, again, is
right.
just so well known. But there is another one in Pennsylvania, right near Philadelphia. It's on the north side, Chestnut Hill area, the kind of ritzy area. This was an estate, Chanticleer Gardens, and this is outside. Yes, those are banana plants. They have greenhouses that they put a lot of these plants, a lot of tropicals. They create a lot of these different effects. Here you see a lot of containers around Chanticleer Gardens. They have a main house, as well as an estate, and this is the backside. You see some terracing, a lot of use of colored leaves and textures, as you can see there. You can see the colors of leaves, the textures, and all these tropicals in pots. Again, you could get a few tropicals at your own house, put them in some clay, different nice pots, and create somewhat similar effect. You know, you don't have to be a big estate. And this I thought was really pretty neat. A blue fan palm, some yucca plants, a very kind of silvery, deserty kind of look, but those containers actually have water plants in them too. That's a silver falls dichondra, the evolvulus, down there, so the blue plant. So again, some really pretty cool design. A lot of times designers will come to Chanticleer and get ideas. A Mediterranean look. Again, this is Philadelphia, but it looks like you might as well be on the Mediterranean somewhere with the cannas and those cordyline plants. And they do arrangements around the garden every day from cut things. This is one of the prettiest I've seen, a black bowl, and those are painted ferns, the dark-leaved bugbanes, and then a couple of hydrangeas, the greenish and then the blue in the center. So very simple, very formal. But
what a great idea if you're having a party.
Exactly, and so you can do something simple like that. I might try something variation on that this year. Looking out from the house at Chanticleer, you see some expansive lawns, agave, some lavenders there, a red leaf, not just a regular mimosa like grows in the south, that tree, but a red leaf form. So a lot of different plants. Going down, they have, instead of fairly steep steps, they replaced it with this nice ramp where you can see these tall plants at their height, 8 feet off the ground. Different crops, there are a lot of different crops that they put in masses. These are lettuces that have bolted. And they use that for design effect with their stalks left on. Another vegetable garden with a weeping Atlas cedar there at Chanticleer. Going through the woodland, you come out on this nice brook area, which reminds me of scenes you might see in England. And then up on the hill, they have fake ruins, like an old house that may have fallen down, which is really pretty neat to walk through and see scenes like this, where you have the acorn sculptures, the oak trees they would have come from, and an oak leaf there. So all revolving around the oak. So little things like that, some combinations like the stachys, or, you know, along with the yucca and the yellow meadow sweet, and the coleus and the copper sedge. So again, simple combinations.
I love the creativity. That's terrific. Yeah. Now, those two are the really special gardens that you visited on your tour last summer, and you have two more that fall into sort of the less seen category.
Yeah, these are ones that are very influential, but a lot of people may not know about, and you either can't get to them, or but only a few times a year, perhaps. But the first one we'll take a look at is west, about an hour west of Philadelphia, in Landisville, the Amish country. Penn State University has some of the top flower trials in the country. There you see 3 pots each of over 1,100 different new annuals from all over the
Wow.
world that are trialed. They take data. You can actually Google Penn State flower trials, search for that, and come up and see the data and see the pictures of all 1,100 and over 400 perennials. Here's an example of just sweet potato vines, all the different ones trialed next to each other so they can be compared and rated. In the back is a new one that's the Solar Tower series. It will be coming on the market. The first ever climbing, self-climbing sweet potato vines. So some real different things. Of course, most gardeners know Burpee Seed Company. This is their famous Ford Hook Farm, and that's where 100 years ago they started. They still have extensive trials, such as this All-America Trials Garden with new plants. And you can get ideas of ones like this new coneflower. The Sombrero series is a really good one. This is a new one called Flamenco Orange.
Now, where can people find out about this year's tours?
Okay, they can go to my website. I've got information on that. We've got one back to Philadelphia in March. Need to really get on that soon if you're interested. March 6th through 9th, the deadline's here, and it's perrysperennials.info, and just go to the tour section.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for bringing those beautiful photographs. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.